Welcome to Lost at 3 a.m. Put your phone down, close your eyes, and let this be the last video you hear tonight. Relax, breathe, and let's begin. Tonight, we're stepping into the world of How I Met Your Mother, a sitcom that was more than just a comedy. It was a story about love, friendship, and the unpredictable journey of life, all told through an intricate web of flashbacks, inside jokes, and heartfelt moments. For 9 seasons, How I Met Your Mother captivated audiences with its unique storytelling, legendary characters, and the mystery at its core. Who was the mother? And how did Ted Mosby's long and winding journey lead him to her? But beyond the big question, the show was about something deeper. It was about 5 friends navigating adulthood in New York City, chasing dreams, making mistakes, and learning that sometimes the most important moments happen when you least expect them. It was about Marshall and Lily, the perfect couple that made us believe in soulmates. It was about Barney, the extravagant playboy who hid surprising depth beneath his suits and catchphrases. It was about Robin, the ambitious journalist torn between love and career. And at the center of it all was Ted, hopelessly romantic, endlessly idealistic, and always searching for something more. How I Met Your Mother wasn't just a sitcom, it was an experience. It made us laugh, it made us cry, and it left us debating its ending long after the final episode aired. Over the next few minutes, we'll dive into the origins of the show, its unforgettable characters, its most iconic moments, and the lasting impact it left on television. So, imagine yourself at MacLaren's pub, the warm glow of the booth lights, the sound of glasses clinking, and the laughter of close friends filling the room. This is the story of How I Met Your Mother. Let's begin. Every great story starts with an idea, and for How I Met Your Mother, that idea began with 2 longtime friends, Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, who wanted to capture the magic of their own experiences living in New York City. They weren't just writing a sitcom, they were crafting a love letter to their younger years, filled with inside jokes, memorable nights out, and the unpredictable twists that come with chasing love and success in your 20s. At the heart of their concept was a simple yet intriguing premise. A man in the future, telling his kids the story of how he met their mother. But unlike traditional romantic comedies that focus on the moment 2 people fall in love, How I Met Your Mother flipped the script. This wasn't just about the destination, but the entire journey. The show's signature storytelling style, non-linear flashbacks, unreliable narration, and long-running gags, was inspired by the way we all tell stories. We forget details, exaggerate moments, and sometimes the best parts of the story aren't the ones we expect. That's what made How I Met Your Mother different from the typical sitcom. Every episode was a puzzle piece, carefully placed to build towards something bigger. Casting was crucial. Josh Radnor was chosen to play Ted Mosby, the hopeless romantic at the center of the story. Jason Segel and Allison Hannigan, both already beloved from past roles, were the perfect choice to play Marshall and Lily, the heart of the group. Kobe Smulders, a relatively unknown actress at the time, brought both strength and charm to Robin Scherbatsky. And then there was Neil Patrick Harris as Barney Stinson, a role that transformed him from a former child actor into one of the most iconic comedic characters in television history. The first season was a gamble. It wasn't a guaranteed hit, and the creators had to convince audiences to invest in a story that was constantly unfolding, teasing answers that wouldn't come for years. But from the moment the first episode aired, it was clear How I Met Your Mother wasn't just another sitcom. It was something special. As the seasons went on, the show built a dedicated fan base, drawn in by its mix of hilarious comedy, heartfelt emotion, and the mystery at its core. The yellow umbrella, the blue French horn, the slap bet. Each piece of the story added to its charm, making How I Met Your Mother feel like a shared experience rather than just a TV show. What started as 2 friends reminiscing about their younger years became one of the most beloved sitcoms of its generation. And through every laugh, every twist, and every unexpected turn, How I Met Your Mother reminded us that sometimes the journey is even more important than the ending. At the center of How I Met Your Mother is Ted Mosby, the storyteller, the dreamer, and the man who believes in fate, destiny, and the idea that true love is written in the stars. From the very first episode, Ted makes it clear. He's not just looking for a girlfriend, he's looking for the one. Ted is the kind of person who falls in love too fast, who sees grand romantic gestures as the key to happiness, and who is constantly searching for meaning in every moment. Whether it's stealing a blue French horn, throwing a 2-minute date together with perfect precision, or getting left at the altar, Ted's love life is nothing short of dramatic. And for 9 seasons, we watched him navigate heartbreak, hope, and the long road that eventually led him to the mother. But Ted's journey wasn't just about finding love. It was about becoming the right person for it. At the beginning of the series, Ted is idealistic to the point of delusion. He's convinced that the universe is going to hand him his soulmate, that every relationship is leading him toward his perfect ending. And time again, reality slaps him in the face. Relationships don't always work out. Love isn't always enough. And sometimes, the grandest gestures don't lead to happily ever after. Throughout the show, we see Ted struggle with relationships that seem perfect in theory, but never quite work. There's Victoria, the baker who seems like everything he's looking for, but whose timing is always off. There's Stella, the woman he nearly marries, only to be left standing at the altar. There's Zoe, the activist who challenges him in all the wrong ways. And then, of course, there's Robin, the woman Ted loves most, but who ultimately isn't meant to be his wife. Ted's story is one of growth. By the time he finally meets Tracy, the mother, we see a different Ted. He's still romantic, still a dreamer, but he's learned patience. He's learned that love isn't always instant, that sometimes it takes years of wrong turns to get to the right place. And when he finally finds her, it's not a grand gesture or an elaborate scheme. It's just a simple conversation under a yellow umbrella, the moment he's waited for his entire life. Ted Mosby is a character that some people love and some people find frustrating. He overthinks, he overanalyzes, he makes terrible decisions in the name of love. But at his core, he represents something universal, the belief that no matter how many times we get it wrong, there's still hope that one day we'll get it right. His story, like the show itself, is a reminder that life doesn't always go according to plan, that sometimes we have to take the long way around to find what we're looking for, and that in the end, every mistake, every heartbreak, and every missed opportunity might just be leading us to exactly where we're meant to be. There are sitcom characters who are funny, there are characters who are memorable, and then there's Barney Stinson, a walking, talking, suit-wearing hurricane of absurdity, charm, and pure comedic brilliance. Played by Neil Patrick Harris, Barney wasn't just another supporting character. He was the show's wild card, its chaos engine, and, for many fans, the reason How I Met Your Mother became so iconic. From the very first episode, Barney makes his presence known. He's loud, over the top, and living his life by a strict code of bro ethics, one that he treats as gospel. He's the kind of guy who has rules for everything, from how to suit up properly to how to execute the perfect high five. He lives for catchphrases, whether it's his drawn-out legend, wait for it, dairy, his insistence that every night will be awesome, or his signature opening line, "Ha, have you met Ted?" But Barney isn't just about jokes. He's about commitment to the bit. When he comes up with an idea, no matter how ridiculous, he follows through with absolute dedication. He writes an entire book of elaborate pickup schemes, known as the Playbook. He turns his friendship with Marshall into an actual slap bet, allowing Marshall to slap him 5 times over a lifetime, with no warning. He believes that the laws of reality don't apply to him, whether he's refusing to admit his job has any real function, please, or insisting he's never once paid a check at a restaurant. But beneath the suits, the jokes, and the outrageous antics, Barney is more than just a comedic sidekick. he's a character with surprising depth. As the series progresses, we learn that his larger-than-life personality is actually a mask for deep insecurities and past trauma. The perfectly polished womanizer we meet in Season 1 wasn't always that way. In flashbacks, we see a younger, heartbroken Barney, a guy who once believed in love, who was left behind and decided to become the kind of person who would never feel weak again. And then comes Robin. Unlike the women Barney usually pursues, Robin isn't someone he can charm with tricks or lies. She challenges him. She forces him to confront who he really is beneath all the bravado. Their relationship, messy as it is, brings out a side of Barney we don't often see. One that actually wants to be better, to open up, to love. By the time Barney proposes to Robin in one of the most elaborate and heartfelt moments of the entire series, it feels like he's finally grown beyond the persona he created for himself. And yet, How I Met Your Mother doesn't give Barney the traditional redemption arc. His wedding to Robin falls apart. His carefully built version of himself crumbles. And just when it seems like he's lost everything, he experiences one final transformation. Not through romance, but through fatherhood. When he unexpectedly has a daughter, Ellie, it's not a relationship or a new challenge that changes him. It's realizing in a single moment that she is the only person who will ever truly matter to him. Barney Stinson is, in many ways, one of the most complex sitcom characters ever written. He starts as a walking joke, flashy, ridiculous, larger than life. But by the end of the series, he's someone we understand, someone who hides behind humor, behind excess, because deep down he's scared of being vulnerable. And maybe that's why, for all of his outrageous antics, he remains one of the most beloved characters on the show. Because, underneath all the legendary high fives, extravagant bets, and ridiculous schemes, Barney Stinson is proof that sometimes the people who seem the most untouchable are the ones who need connection the most. Every great sitcom needs balance. In a show filled with chaos, failed romances, and characters who refuse to grow up, How I Met Your Mother had one thing that grounded it all. Marshall and Lily. From the very first episode, it's clear. Marshall Erickson and Lily Aldrin aren't just another TV couple. They're the glue holding the friend group together, the emotional backbone of the series, and proof that not every love story has to be about breakups, misunderstandings, or dramatic twists. Some love stories just work. Marshall and Lily met in college, fell in love almost immediately, and never looked back. They weren't the couple that was constantly on again, off again. They weren't plagued by doubts about whether they were meant to be together. They knew. And that kind of certainty is rare in sitcoms, where relationships are usually fueled by tension and will they, won't they dynamics. But what made Marshall and Lily so special wasn't just their stability, it was the way they were written as real, flawed, hilarious people who chose each other every single day. Marshall, played by Jason Segel, is the lovable, goofy, big-hearted optimist of the group. A small-town Minnesota guy with big dreams of becoming an environmental lawyer, Marshall is one of the purest, most genuinely good-hearted characters in the show. He believes in fairy tales, mythical creatures, and eating entire racks of ribs without regret. He's also one of the funniest members of the gang, not in a Barney way, full of elaborate schemes, but in his effortless charm and complete lack of shame. Whether he's inventing games like Marshgammon, performing ridiculous songs for Lily, or getting way too invested in a slap bet, Marshall is the guy you just want to be around. And then there's Lily, played by Alison Hannigan. Lily is sharp, confident, and just as quirky as Marshall. She's fiercely independent, but completely devoted to him. A mix of chaos and stability that makes her one of the most interesting characters in the series. She's the one who keeps the gang in check, who pushes them to grow, but she's also deeply flawed in ways that make her feel real. She's controlling. She has commitment issues. She keeps secrets, including the fact that she once called off her engagement to Marshall to chase an art career in San Francisco. That moment, Lily leaving Marshall at the end of season 1, is one of the most heart-wrenching moments in the entire show. Because, unlike Ted's many failed relationships, this one actually matters. When Marshall and Lily break up, it isn't just a bump in the road, it shatters them. And for the first time, the show forces us to consider, what if the most perfect couple we know isn't so perfect after all? But here's the thing about Marshall and Lily. They work through it. They don't get back together instantly. They take time apart, they grow, and when they reunite, it feels earned. Their love isn't about grand gestures or epic speeches. It's about the little things, the weird inside jokes, the late night conversations, the absolute certainty that no matter what happens, they will always find their way back to each other. And as the series goes on, we watch them grow together. We see them get married in a tiny, rushed ceremony because they just can't wait another second. We see them become parents, struggle with careers, and navigate the realities of adulthood without losing what makes them Marshall and Lily. Marshall and Lily's love story is different from the others in How I Met Your Mother. It's not about chasing something elusive like Ted. It's not about personal reinvention like Barney. It's about what happens after you find the person you're meant to be with. Because love isn't just about falling for someone. It's about choosing them over and over again, no matter what life throws your way. And if there's one thing How I Met Your Mother made clear, it's that Marshall and Lily always chose each other. Robin Scherbatsky wasn't your typical sitcom love interest. From the moment she walked into MacLaren's pub in the very first episode, she was different. She wasn't the hopeless romantic, the quirky girl next door, or the dreamer waiting to be swept off her feet. She was tough, independent, and unapologetically herself, and that's exactly what made her such a compelling character. Robin grew up in Canada, raised by a strict, overbearing father who wanted a son instead of a daughter, so much so that he literally called her Robin Charles Scherbatsky Jr. As a result, Robin became the kind of person who never wanted to be vulnerable, never wanted to rely on anyone else, and definitely never wanted to fit into the traditional idea of love and relationships. While Ted spent the entire series searching for his soulmate, Robin spent it proving she didn't need one. She was ambitious, always chasing her career as a journalist, even when it meant sacrificing her personal life. She was adventurous, willing to move across the world for the next big opportunity. She was tough, refusing to let anyone, not Ted, not Barney, not her friends, define her. But underneath her hardened, sarcastic exterior, Robin had moments of deep emotional complexity. Her relationship with Ted was central to the early seasons of the show. At first, it seemed like she might be the one. Ted certainly thought so. But as time went on, it became clear that while they loved each other, they wanted different things. Ted wanted marriage, kids, the perfect family life. Robin wanted freedom, excitement, a career that took her everywhere. No matter how hard they tried, they could never change who they were at their core. Then came Barney. Unlike Ted, Barney never tried to turn Robin into something she wasn't. He loved her competitiveness, her weird Canadian quirks, her love of cigars and laser tag, and for a while, it seemed like they made sense together in a way that she and Ted never did. Their engagement was one of the biggest emotional shifts in the series. Barney, the ultimate bachelor, was actually ready to commit, and Robin, the woman who never saw herself getting married, was willing to take that leap. But How I Met Your Mother didn't give Robin the traditional fairy tale ending, because in the end, Robin wasn't meant to be tamed. Her marriage to Barney fell apart, because deep down, she was always meant to be on her own. She loved Barney, but she loved her freedom more. And when the show flashes forward years into the future, we see a Robin who is successful, but lonely, drifting away from her friends, focused entirely on her career, and looking back at what she left behind. Robin's story is one of self-acceptance. She was never going to be Lily, happily married with kids. She was never going to be Ted, chasing a perfect love story. She was Robin Scherbatsky, fiercely independent, incredibly driven, and unwilling to compromise who she was for anyone. But then, In the very last scene of the show, we come full circle. Robin, after everything, after her career, after her failed marriage, after years of searching, ends up back with Ted. It was a decision that divided fans. Some saw it as the ultimate betrayal of the show's central mystery, the idea that the mother was the love of Ted's life. Others saw it as inevitable, because How I Met Your Mother had always been about timing. Robin and Ted were never right for each other when they were young, but after everything, after they had lived the lives they needed to live, maybe, just maybe, they were right for each other in the end. Robin Scherbatsky wasn't just another love interest. She was complicated, layered, and real. She showed us that love isn't always the goal, that sometimes the pursuit of happiness is about chasing your dreams, even if it means walking alone. For 9 seasons, How I Met Your Mother kept fans hooked with one central question: who is the mother? From the very first episode, we knew this wasn't going to be a typical love story. This wasn't just about Ted falling in love. It was about how he met the love of his life, the long and complicated road that led him to her. And in true How I Met Your Mother fashion, the show took its time, dropping hints, teasing clues, and keeping us guessing right up until the moment she finally appeared. The showrunners, Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, understood the power of anticipation. Instead of revealing the mother early on, they turned her into a mystery, a symbol, a legend. She wasn't just a person. She was Ted's destiny, the woman he had been searching for through every heartbreak, every wrong turn, every blue French horn. Throughout the series, we got tiny breadcrumbs, small glimpses into the mother's life before we even knew her name. We saw her yellow umbrella, the one Ted was destined to find. We learned that she was in Ted's orbit long before they met. She was in the same economics class he accidentally walked into. She was Rachel Bilson's roommate. She played in the wedding band at Barney and Robin's wedding. Every clue was carefully placed, making it feel like fate had been pulling them together all along. And then, in the final season, we finally met Tracy McConnell. Played by Kristen Milioti, Tracy was instantly lovable. She wasn't just an idealized version of Ted's dream girl. She was funny, smart, a little weird, and completely perfect for him. In just a few episodes, she did something remarkable. She lived up to the hype. Fans had spent years wondering who the mother would be, and when she finally arrived, she felt right. But How I Met Your Mother wasn't content with just delivering a love story, because, as we all now know, the mother wasn't meant to stay. The show's biggest twist, the revelation that Tracy had passed away years before Ted even started telling this story, shattered expectations. Some fans saw it as a beautiful, bittersweet ending, a reminder that life doesn't always give us the happy ending we expect. Others saw it as a betrayal, arguing that after all that build-up, the mother deserved more than just a short-lived romance and an off-screen death. But whether you loved or hated the reveal, there's no denying one thing: How I Met Your Mother knew how to tell a story. It made us care. It made us speculate. It made us believe in fate, timing, and the idea that every moment in life, good or bad, leads us exactly where we're meant to be. Ted's journey wasn't just about finding the mother. It was about becoming the man who was ready to meet her. And when he finally did, it was simple, quiet, and perfect. A rainy train station, a yellow umbrella, 2 strangers who were never really strangers at all. This was how he met the mother, and for a moment, it was everything we had been waiting for. A great sitcom isn't just about the characters or the story. It's about the moments, the ones that stick with you, that make you laugh even when you've seen them 100 times, that turn into inside jokes among fans. How I Met Your Mother didn't just have great jokes. It had iconic, long-running gags that became part of the show's DNA. One of the greatest, the slap bet. What started as a simple disagreement between Marshall and Barney, was Robin a porn star or a secretly married woman, quickly spiraled into a lifelong contract of pain. When Marshall won the bet, he didn't just claim victory, he earned the right to slap Barney 5 times, at any moment, with no warning. Over the course of the series, The slaps became a spectacle. We got countdown timers. We got slap-themed musical numbers. You just got slapped. We got one of the most satisfying moments in TV history when Marshall delivered the final, devastating slap in front of the entire gang. And then there's the playbook, Barney's sacred text of seduction, filled with elaborate, ridiculous, completely insane schemes designed to trick women into going out with him. The Lorenzo von Matterhorn, the scuba diver, the Not a Father's Day scam, each more absurd than the last. The playbook was so ridiculous that it somehow became a real, published book because fans just couldn't get enough of Barney's over-the-top strategies. Of course, we can't forget Have You Met Ted? Barney's foolproof, ultra-simple, wildly successful method of forcing Ted into blind introductions with women. The execution? Barney taps a stranger on the shoulder, gestures toward Ted, and asks, "Ha, have you met Ted?" It shouldn't work, and yet, somehow, it became a legendary icebreaker, one that real people started using in bars everywhere. Then there was Robin Sparkles, Robin's embarrassing Canadian pop star alter ego. The moment we learned that the cool, tough, independent Robin Scherbatsky once recorded an early 90s bubblegum pop song called "Let's Go to the Mall," everything changed. The music video, complete with ridiculous outfits, roller rinks, and way too much denim, was one of the funniest reveals in sitcom history. And just when we thought it couldn't get any better, we got the dark sequel, Sandcastles in the Sand. The show also gave us interventions, a running gag where the gang would stage elaborate, overly dramatic interventions for absolutely ridiculous reasons. Marshall's cowboy hat phase? Intervention. Lily's bad British accent? Intervention. Barney's addiction to magic tricks? Huge intervention. The joke escalated to the point where they had an intervention banner, which, of course, was later repurposed for Barney's bachelor party. And then there's the legend of the doppelgangers. Over the years, the gang kept encountering alternate versions of themselves scattered throughout New York. Mustache Marshall, stripper Lily, lesbian Robin, Mexican wrestler Ted, and finally, Dr. Barney. Each sighting became a sign of something major about to happen in their lives, proving that in the world of How I Met Your Mother, even the silliest jokes had deeper meaning. But the real magic of How I Met Your Mother wasn't just in these individual jokes. It was in how the show wove them together across multiple seasons. The best running gags weren't just one-off laughs. They built over time, rewarding long-time viewers with callbacks, in-jokes, and payoffs years in the making. That's what made How I Met Your Mother special. It wasn't just telling a story, it was crafting a universe, one ridiculous joke at a time. For 9 seasons, How I Met Your Mother built itself around one central mystery. Who is the mother? Every clue, every flash forward, every small piece of the puzzle led to the long-awaited moment when Ted Mosby would finally meet the love of his life. And then, in the final episode, the show made a decision that divided fans forever. To fully understand why the ending was so controversial, we have to go back to everything the show built up. For years, we saw Ted struggle through heartbreak after heartbreak, always searching for the one. We watched the yellow umbrella change hands, appearing in small glimpses throughout the series. We learned that the mother's name was Tracy McConnell, that she played bass in a wedding band, and that somehow she and Ted had been in each other's orbit long before they ever met. And then, in the final season, we finally got to know her. Kristen Miliotti's portrayal of Tracy was instantly perfect. She was funny, sweet, weird in all the right ways, and most importantly, she was exactly what Ted had been waiting for. Fans fell in love with her almost immediately, and for a brief moment it felt like all the waiting, all the heartbreak had been worth it. But then came the twist. In the show's final moments, it was revealed that Tracy had been dead the whole time. The story that Ted had spent 9 seasons telling wasn't really about how he met the love of his life. It was about Robin. The entire framing of the show, the build-up to meeting the mother, the years of teasing and foreshadowing, it all led to Ted standing outside Robin's apartment, holding the same blue French horn from the very first episode. For some fans, this was a beautiful, full-circle moment. The show had always been about timing. Ted and Robin had loved each other, but they were never in the right place at the right time. Now, after everything, maybe they finally were. Maybe How I Met Your Mother had been telling us all along that fate works in unexpected ways. But for many fans, the ending felt like a betrayal. The entire final season had been dedicated to Barney and Robin's wedding, only for them to get divorced minutes later in the finale. Ted's journey to Tracy, something we had waited nearly a decade for, was cut short in a rushed montage. And worst of all, Tracy, the mother we had spent years waiting for, the woman who was supposed to be Ted's great love, was treated like an afterthought. The backlash was immediate and intense. Fans felt like the ending undermined the entire premise of the show, that it reduced the mother to a plot device just to push Ted and Robin back together. Many believed that after everything, Ted shouldn't have ended up with Robin, that their story had already been told, and it was time to let it go. The controversy became so big that the creators released an alternate ending, one where Tracy lived and Ted's story simply ended with them finding happiness together. This version was far more well received, but by then, the damage had been done. But here's the thing, whether you loved or hated the ending, it proved just how deeply people cared about this show. Fans wouldn't have been so upset if How I Met Your Mother hadn't meant something to them. For 9 years, it had been more than just a sitcom. It had been a story that people had invested in, a story about love, loss, friendship, and growing up. And in a way, that's what makes How I Met Your Mother's legacy so unique. It sparked debates, it made people feel something, it left an impact, and even years after it ended, people are still talking about it. Because at the end of the day, How I Met Your Mother wasn't just about how Ted met Tracy. It was about the messy, complicated, heartbreaking, and beautiful journey of life itself. Few sitcoms have left a mark quite like How I Met Your Mother. What started as a quirky show about love, friendship, and a New York City bar turned into one of the most influential and beloved comedies of its generation. It wasn't just a sitcom, it was a cultural phenomenon filled with unforgettable moments, inside jokes that became part of everyday conversation, and a unique storytelling format that changed how sitcoms were made. One of the biggest reasons How I Met Your Mother stood out was the way it told its story. Unlike most sitcoms that followed a straightforward, episodic format, How I Met Your Mother played with time, perspective, and memory in a way no comedy had done before. Ted's narration wasn't just a framing device, it was a character in itself. The show constantly jumped between past, present, and future, weaving together moments in a way that made every small detail feel important. And because Ted wasn't always a reliable narrator, the show had room to surprise us, to twist expectations, and to reward fans who paid attention to the smallest clues. And then there were the catchphrases. If you watched How I Met Your Mother, you probably found yourself quoting it without even realizing. Some of them were Barney's, the kind of over-the-top slogans that made him larger than life. His drawn-out, exaggerated, "Leggin', wait for it, dairy," or his insistence that every night was an opportunity to suit up. Others came from the group's inside jokes, like the classic, "Have you met Ted?" The show was filled with these little phrases that, over time, became part of pop culture itself. They weren't just things the characters said, they were things people started saying in real life. Little reminders of a show that made them laugh, cry, and feel like they were part of something bigger. But for all its humor, How I Met Your Mother also had a real emotional impact. It wasn't afraid to dive into deeper themes: love, loss, regret, the unpredictability of life. Some of the most powerful moments in the show weren't about romance or jokes. They were about the moments that shake us, the ones that remind us of how fragile and fleeting life can be. Marshall losing his father in bad news wasn't just one of the saddest moments in How I Met Your Mother, it was one of the most gut-wrenching moments in sitcom history. And it worked because it felt real. In the middle of a show about slap bets and legendary nights out, it was a reminder that life doesn't wait for us to be ready. That emotional depth was what set How I Met Your Mother apart. It was a comedy, but it was never just about making people laugh. It was about capturing something honest, the feeling of being in your 20s, of searching for meaning, of watching the people around you change while you try to figure out where you fit in. It explored the complexity of relationships, not just in romantic terms, but in friendships that felt like family. Ted's journey wasn't just about finding love. It was about learning that sometimes love isn't what you expect it to be. Barney, despite all his bravado and ridiculous schemes, had one of the most interesting character arcs in the show, proving that even the most stubborn people can change. And Marshall and Lily, they were proof that real love isn't about grand gestures. It's about choosing each other over and over again through all the ups and downs. Even after its controversial ending, How I Met Your Mother remains one of the most rewatchable sitcoms of all time. New fans continue to discover it, drawn in by its humor, its heart, and the way it so effortlessly mixes the ridiculous with the deeply personal. Years later, people still debate whether Ted should have ended up with Robin. They still argue over whether the mother deserved more time, but whether you loved or hated the way it ended. One thing is undeniable. How I Met Your Mother made people care. It made them invest in these characters, in their lives, in their choices. And that's not something every show can do. Because at its core, How I Met Your Mother was never just about how Ted met the mother. It was about the journey, the highs, the lows, the heartbreaks, the victories, the friendships that shape us, and the moments that define us. It was about growing up, letting go, and realizing that sometimes the story we think we're telling isn't the one that actually unfolds, and that's what makes it legendary.